Types of transactions. When you look at any transaction where we exchange ownership of things that we are buying and selling, and the consideration or the payment, and that's what really transactions are. I mean, when you go to the market, what is the market? Market is the place where we exchange ownership. I'm the owner of the car, you are the owner of the money, we exchange these things and so on. So we are exchanging items. And when you look at the transactions, we can classify them in three very broad categories. So number one, it's a sale. And that sale is cash or a credit. So what that means, when you are selling the item, you are transferring the ownership to someone else for some money, and that money could be paid immediately. This is what we call cash or a spot, or you could say, give me that money in installments or in 1 week, 2 months, and so on. So this is what we call credit sale or deferred payment basis. We also have a loan, which is another transaction, usually benevolent transaction in Islam, and it has its own different rules, which we will look at later on. Leasing, again, is a different type of transaction, and all of these three transactions will have different implications in terms of transfer of ownership, risk, and liability. So for instance, if you look at a sale, in this case, when you sell, you transfer ownership to buyer at that time when the sale is executed, and this transfer is definite and permanent for both spot and credit price. So what that means is that if you are buying, let's say, a car from me, and we agree the price will be, let's say, $2,000, you are paying me $2,000, I'm giving you the car, immediately car is yours. You become the owner of the car. Tomorrow, if something happens to the car, you are responsible, and so on. Now, that's for the spot transaction. When we talk about deferred transaction, where you buy that car from me, ownership immediately is transferred to you, and you are paying me in installments. In that case, it is still valid sale with all ownership responsibilities being transferred to you. So if the car is destroyed, although you are paying in installments or you haven't paid at all and you are paying in lump sum, let's say in a month or 5 years, in this sort of sale, the responsibility on you, even though you are paying in installments. So this is what the sale is. Loan is a type of a transaction which is free of any charge. It's a temporary transfer of ownership of goods, asset, and it's free of any payment. It is designed to help someone temporarily, and we in Islam want to differentiate between commercial transactions when we enter in the profit-making arrangement and a transaction which is charitable, which is a loan where you are not allowed to make a profit. The debtor is liable here to return or pay back the same asset to the creditor. In terms of the leasing, only the usufruct or the right to benefit from the asset is made available to the lessee against the payment of the rent, but not the ownership of the asset. So in a lease, and we are going to talk about lease a bit more details later on, we are transferring usufruct or the right to use a specific asset temporarily to the person against the payment of the rent. So in this case, that ownership stays with us. We are still responsible, but that person remains temporarily party that is using the asset. So ownership remains with the lessor, but he is entitled to rental payments and is also liable for expenses relating to ownership and loss of asset, if any. Anything that cannot be used without consuming its corpus or which change its shape altogether in the process of its use cannot be leased out. For example, can we lease food? Can we lease food? Of course we cannot, because for the food to benefit from, we have to eat it. So the food will not have usufruct or something that you can use while keeping the food intact, like a car. So the car will have normal wear and tear, but car remains in its shape while we are driving it around in the house and so on. So anything that does not have usufruct, we cannot lease. That includes also other perishable goods, like a fuel. You cannot say, can I borrow 1 liter of petrol? That doesn't make sense. or the food and so on. For this same purpose, money is something that we cannot lease. We cannot lease money and make money from money like that.